you all may be experiencing another first here in the Senate because you're about to get what amounts to a joint question from myself and Senator Murkowski, because we were both kind of wrestling with the definition of energy independence. And I'd probably frame it as how you go about defining energy security, and then I'm going to yield to Senator Murkowski, who would also like to kind of be part of the discussion. So when I contemplate energy security, I think I ask myself, does this mean no more imports? Or does it mean the capacity for no more imports? Or does it mean more exports than imports? And I think this whole question of what constitutes energy security, you may want to characterize it as energy independence. I want to let my colleague weigh in on this because you are seeing our bipartisan efforts perhaps in one of our, we always try to find new ways to demonstrate it. We've never asked a joint question to my knowledge, but there's always a first time here. And let Senator Murkowski be part of this. This will be the last question for the morning, and then we have the vote. Senator Murkowski.
Well, and because it's such an easy question here, but I'm just joking. I said we're starting to act like an old married couple where we're thinking the same way. Pretty soon we're going to be finishing one another's thoughts. So I'll hope you let me finish the thoughts on oil exports. But I too have been thinking about how we define energy independence, and we've got couple ends of the spectrum here. We can either be very insular as a nation and try to do it all ourselves and basically thumb our nose at the rest of the world, kind of difficult in most areas, or we can do as Senator Wyden has suggested in one of his alternatives, where we allow for greater flow of exports and opportunities across our borders and insulate ourselves from the shocks of world prices. When I think about energy independence, energy security, it goes to things like economic security. How do we ensure that as we deal with our energy needs, we have also helped our economy become stronger. We have also worked to create greater jobs and opportunities. But I don't view energy security to be a situation where we kind of close in on ourselves, but rather that we open up to a greater extent. But by doing so, we become less vulnerable to the impacts of actions of others. So I do appreciate my colleague letting me join in on this. I said, no, you can't ask that question, I'm going to ask it. I think it's important as the ranking and the chair on this committee to kind of wrap up this very important hearing to take us back up to 30,000 feet. What are we really talking about here? Because I think it truly does go to the whole issue of not only oil export, but export of our energy that we're successfully able to produce in this country. So I thank the chairman.
The vote is on, so if each of you take about a minute, we can still make the vote. Mr. Hamm.
Yes, if I think it's plural instead of singular. You never get rid of I heard here earlier that the upstream producers were foreign owned. I would assure you there are more foreign-owned refineries. Motiva, leased owned 50% by the Saudis. Venezuela owns their own refineries. So you never stop them from being able to ship their oil in. I take it that we're energy independent when we're exporting less or more than they're bringing in. So that's why you have to look at the balance of the two. And so I would suggest that we look at it overall, not be inclusive of just who we are and what our needs are.
Mr. Burnett.
First of all, let me define what I mean by energy independence. That includes crude, condensates, gas, coal, and alternative energies. It's all energies. And I think you also need to define it as energy independence for North America, not the United States. It has to include Canada. And if you include Canada, it's feasible for North America to be energy independent by or before 2030. And what that means is that there will still be crude imports. There's a quality arbitrage, as was mentioned earlier, but it would mean an increase in product exports and probably exports of coal and other energies as well.
Ms. Jaffe.
So I would say I agree with that. Given my slogan, the tyranny of geography, there'll always be balancing for quality and other reasons between different kinds of energy sources. In and outside our borders, we have a free trade agreement with Mexico and Canada. But I do want to end with the following 2 points. Number one, supply bottlenecks, no matter how they're created, are the things that make volatility intense, as we heard about propane. And the second thing is that Senator Murkowski is correct. A secure global market, it is what's going to bring American consumers the lowest price and the most consistent stability in fuel prices. And that is what the U.S. should seek to do, to be a responsible participant in making sure we have a secure global market.
Mr. Weiss.
Thank you. I appreciate the joint question. I'm sorry we're not able to give you a joint answer. I think all the discussion about energy independence, or almost all of it, has focused on supply. That is something we control some of and some we don't. My view is we need to focus on reducing our demand, because that is something we do have control over. It will help save consumers money. It will help reduce the carbon pollution that will cause extreme weather, that will disrupt our energy production and transportation system. So I think we need to really focus on reducing demand, and particularly when it comes to transportation, which is fueled over 90% by oil, we need to invest in alternatives to oil, whether it's electric vehicles, whether it is natural gas fueled trucks, whether it is public transportation, advanced biofuels. All of those things will give consumer choices, so we are not solely dependent on this one fuel to essentially run our economy. Because as long as we are, we'll still be here having discussions about energy security and energy independence. Thank you for having me.
Mr. Weiss, thank you. Suffice it to say, this is the first hearing, apparently, on this topic. It will not be the last. I knew it would be a piece of cake to find common ground on this question, and this is going to be in the to-be-continued department. So we thank you all. We thank you for your patience, and the committee is adjourned.